Hi, this is Stacy Hernandez with the Best You College Admissions Consulting, the best college for the best you. I am here chatting with Chris Hunt today from College Essay Mentor, and he's going to chat more about the Common Application Essay, the big Common Application Essay, and giving us some tips and some information on how to really get started on that. That is actually something you can be doing as early as now to start working on your application essay, your Common Application Essay. So Chris, tell us a little bit more about your background first, because it's helpful for students to know a little bit more about you.
Sure. So going way back, I went to college at Dartmouth, which is why I'm wearing my green hoodie today. And then my first jobs were as a journalist for The Economist and the Wall Street Journal, where I learned certain kinds of writing structures. To some extent, I put those to use a bit later on when I wrote a couple of books, but where that became really helpful was when someone asked me to start working on college essays, and it turned out that some of the writing structures I'd learned as a journalist were really helpful when it came to working on college essays, which I've been doing for the past 5 years.
Nice. And just a side note, many of my clients work with Chris, and they just rave about the quality of his assistance, to the point where not only are they learning how to write the best type of essay for them, bringing out the best in them, but they also are learning writing skills that almost all of them have told me have been completely useful for college. And so working with an essay specialist is not just about the college essay, but you really do learn some writing skills along the way. Yeah, so that's just something that a lot of my students have told me about you. So
for sure, my favorite feedback to get from students and parents is, we love the essay, but some of the writing skills we learned carried over into school, both in high school and in college. Writing is writing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into the Common Application Essay. The prompts are pretty straightforward, so students can pretty much write about anything. Can you tell us a little bit more about kind of some advice you can give students in terms of starting their Common Application, when to start, and what to be thinking about?
Well, would you like to start with a few words about the prompts themselves?
Sure, go for it.
So the Common Application offers you 7 options, and 1 through 6 are somewhat specific. So it's things like describe a challenge, describe time you changed your mind. And if one of those fits very well with your experience, great. If not, don't worry. Prompt number 7 is write an essay on a topic of your choosing. By definition, 7 incorporates all of the other ones. So I've worked now one-on-one with more than 300 students, and everybody does number 7. Mm-hmm. So if that works for you, fine. If it's too much flexibility, feel free to look around 1 through 6.
That is such an important point, because a lot of students get very hung up on the specific prompts, and they don't even really understand that you can write about anything. That's right.
Well, so I realized, so it's related to a very important distinction about college essays as opposed to school essays. Mm-hmm. In school, you're given a writing prompt and you're asked to write an essay, and your essay will be evaluated in relation to the prompt. Did you answer this prompt? The evaluation of a college essay, something I learned from Stacy, is very different. Someone is reading this in order to learn about you. So if someone learns about you and it's not exactly related to the prompt, it's not a problem. All that matters is someone gets to know you. So the college essay is very different than the school essay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. What other tips do you have when students are starting to think about their Common Application Essay? Maybe things to avoid, things to be thinking about, that could be helpful.
So putting ourselves into the place of the admissions officer, it's good to understand what they want. What are they looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what they're probably not looking for is information that they already have, your grades, what courses you took, and perhaps even more important, you've given an activities list of 10 things that you did. So that's what you did. You sometimes hear the advice, don't repeat your activities list. I don't think that's very good advice, because here are the 10 things that really matter to you and you invested your time in over high school. It would be pretty silly to say, okay, those are off limits. However, what's not in that activities list is why you engaged in those things, what you got out of them, what kind of choices you made, either in those activities or elsewhere. So my first thing to think about is, here's what I did. You don't need to write about what you did in your essay,
Mm-hmm.
but it's good to start thinking about why you did it, what you got out of it, and then ultimately, the most important thing to consider first is, what's the message you want to send somebody or give somebody about you that's not on a piece of paper already? You know, who are you? What matters to you? What do you value? Identifying that, which might not be easy, it takes some thinking and some thought, is really a great starting point. So don't write about what you did, write about who you are.
And if you really think about it, in this paper application, well, it's online now, but in this application, all they read are words about you, right? They read the letters of recommendation about you, they read your activities list. That's how they know you. So this is what you have control over. You have control over your essay to bring out who you are. Now, the letters of recommendation can talk a little bit about your personality, but you control this narrative.
So
Yeah.
I like your use of the word control, because another temptation that people get is, oh, I really want to save this information for my supplement essays, the school-specific essays you might need to write.
Mm-hmm.
But it's silly to save your good stuff hoping that a question might come up. You can control these 650 words, or in the case of the coalition, I think it's 500 or 550.
550, yeah.
You can control this because everyone's going to see this. So if you really want something to know, someone to know something, put it here and work out the supplement essays later.
So some students really think they're done after a draft or two. Can you talk a little bit more about drafts?
Sure. Something I might say first is, after you have that message, then think about how to bring that to life with other experiences and insights that you want to share. So bringing that to life is the second step, with ideally some combination of a story or some stories with your reflections on why it mattered to you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, then when you have all that, then you write a first draft. And a first draft, you've got 650 word limit, but I strongly encourage everyone to completely ignore that. You know, go way over the word limit. It's very rare for my students to write less than 1,000 words in their first draft. And in that first draft, really lower the stakes on yourself. You're not going to be judged on this. No one's ever going to see it. So spelling doesn't matter. Grammar doesn't matter. Just get something down. Don't try to edit it as you're writing it, and then see what you got. Once you have a first draft, then you have all the time in the world to write more drafts. So using the, let's say, analogy of a dartboard, just get the dart on the board. You have as many chances as you want to manually move it closer and closer to the bullseye.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That is a really, really great point. And we're saying you have all the time in the world because we are encouraging you to start writing early. So instead of writing in September, October, November, right when deadlines are due, instead you're starting May, some April.
Well, yes, fair enough. If
June.
you start on October 30th and you're applying early for November 1st, you don't have all the time in the world. But as Stacy said, if you start in May or June or even July, you do have plenty of time to have a look. The other thing that I would encourage anyone or perhaps discourage people from doing is don't show it to too many people. There is a temptation with writing to want affirmation, right? And get lots of people in the mix. Everyone's going to want to help, and all their help is going to be different. But I think that only the student or the writer really knows what's true. So if there's somebody who you think really gets you, maybe bounce it off of that person. Say, do you recognize me? Does this sound like me? Does this value seem like it's something you know to be true about me? But this idea of distributing an essay to a committee, it's going to be a mess, and it's going to be very hard because you're going to want to please everybody. So then you get what I call the Mr. Potato Head essay. Maybe it's not good for this generation, but an essay that is just a collage of everyone's different opinion, and all you see is the opinions, and you lose track of the integrity of the potato, if you will.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. That is so crucial. I'm actually going to have you back, and I want us to do just a video specifically on that topic. Potatoes, yes, on that concept. But I have a really clear idea of how we're going to approach that one, because I'm excited. So these are just some really great tips and ideas and pointers for you to just start thinking about. We really do encourage earlier writing. Now, early, gosh, May or April would be really early, typically for this process. We find students to be much more comfortable settling into writing in June. So late May after school gets out for some regions, or in late June when school gets out for other regions. But really, ideally, getting this done over the summer, so you have a less stressful senior year, and you have more time right now to be processing and drafting and writing and that sort of thing. So, Chris, anything else you want to bring up before we wrap up?
Well, you referred to, we're talking about the summer and when is done. If you have a draft that you really like, it's okay to leave it alone. I mean, I wouldn't obsess and go over it every day from June until either November or January. It's okay to set it aside, do other stuff, supplement essays, enjoy the summer, start high school senior year, and come back to it in September or October. And if you make some changes then, but try not to obsess.
Yes.
So my last suggestion is read it out loud. Okay. If you can read something out loud and read through it very smoothly, it's going to sound like you. If you find your voice hesitating or pausing, circle those spots, and maybe those are things you want to smooth out to make sure you sound like you. If your parents sneak in or your friends sneak in, a college admissions officer, they're not looking for cheating, but they can hear it. So by reading something through and making sure it's you, you'll protect yourself from that, and you'll have an essay with a really consistent voice of a smart high school student, and that's who they want at college.
And actually some admissions offices have purchased essay software where they can track every essay to see if there's plagiarism. So they're not looking for it, but sometimes it's very obvious. or sometimes they scan them, or some schools scan all. It's very interesting on how that process works. I have one more before we wrap up, one more question for you. Any advice on just how to start? Because that's sometimes where students hit a wall. They just are like, I don't even know where to begin.
Start by thinking, here's what I want to say. And, if you're telling a story, you want to engage someone in the moment, but that's hard.
Yeah.
But think about the story or stories that are going to reveal your theme, and you're the boss. You get to control where your story starts, where your story ends. But that's trickier and probably the subject of another conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone has a different style in doing that, so I completely understand. It really is based on the learner and the type of how you write and process things.
Right.
Too. So understand that about yourself. Understand how you start a high school essay. Understand how you write things, and that's your process. So wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Tell us about where students can reach out to you if they're looking for essay support and that sort of thing.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Tell us where students can reach out to you. Yes.
Look, I do talk about some of this at greater length. There's a little bit of information on my website, collegeessaymentor.com. I am going to start actually doing webinars sort of for, let's say, 3 or 4 hours on a weekend, where I'll just have more time to show you how to find your theme, and as Stacy alluded to, how to start actually structuring something so you can get to a really good first draft. And that information will be on my website under there'll be a tab for webinars or services or something like that.
Perfect. Thank you. Again, thank you so much for all of your time. This is Stacy Hernandez with the Best You College Admissions Consulting, the best college for the best you.